Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Dr. Hawthorn here, and today we are having the third episode of our Blender tutorial, which is texturing and coloring. But before that, let's dive into the software and do a quick recap of the last episode, shall we? We are in Blender now. In the center of the screen, we have the end table we created last time. And now we are going to definitely create the chair with the backrest as we recap what was happening last time. Let's move this end table to the side of the screen and rename it because we are creating more and more objects to the scene and we don't want to be confused by all the creation. Every cube that we are creating is called cube and cylinder we call it cylinder. What is that actually? We have to give it a name. We can rename anything here on the list by double-clicking on the name and just type in the new name. Or right-click on the mouse under ID data, we can rename it. I will put it end table and create a new cube for the chair. I want to keep the scale of this chair 1:1, so everything I'm doing to the chair mesh, I'm going to do it in edit mode. Edit mode tab. Now, I can squeeze it down by using the function scaling S and restrict this to the vertical axis Z. Now I'm squeezing it down, and from the front, I probably want to grab it along the Z-axis again just to create a bit higher. For the chair, usually what we have is the chair front is wider and the chair back is a little bit narrower. And what I need to do is just to squeeze this part to the center a little bit more. Then, if I am doing so, I'm not selecting the face because if it is the face, I'm scaling it like a general aspect. But I want to select either the edge or the vertices. I'm switching it to vertex select and I will do box selection. But be very careful here because if we rotate around, you can see that I'm only selecting the two vertices on top. And what happened to the back of the view, it's not selected. And that is to protect you to not select anything that you are not seeing. To toggle this problem is to turn on the X-ray on the top right here. When we turn on X-ray, you can see everything is turning to translucent and you can see through the mesh. If I'm doing this box select again, if we rotate around, we can see everything, the four vertices are all selected. And now I want to do scaling down on the x-axis only because I don't want to scale also the thickness down. S and X. Now this seat is more or less in shape. And now I can turn off the X-ray and just to create loop cut to the seat. To create the loop cut, we can use the shortcut or the hotkey we say, Command R, to create this loop cut here. And the reason why I want to do this because it's more convenient and you can also scroll on the mouse button to create more cut at the same time. For example, I scroll down to have two cuts. These two cuts I can scale on the x-axis just to push them further apart from each other. This is exactly what we did for the end table. I have to also do one cut here and the other cut here. But I don't want to do the same because like this, I create two cuts. And if I scale it up on the y-axis, you can see that the slope here on the side is not very ideal. So I'm gonna undo it and I will do the cut one by one. First one here and then the second one here. Now, from the bottom, we can use 3 on the keyboard to select face again. I can use Shift to multiple select the faces I want. E to extrude down. When I extrude it down, I want to squeeze the faces at the bottom of the leg a little bit. I have to turn on the transform pivot point to individual objects and scale with S. Chair, more or less like the end table, except that the top looks a bit different. Next, we are going to do the backrest. For the backrest, we can select the back two faces here with shifts. And then from the front view, we use E to extrude up. Now I have this more or less like the back of the chair. What I want to do now is to create something like this, a loop cut. Or to be actually more convenient, we just have to extrude twice. For example, like this. It's the same as just now, except that we don't have to do loop cuts on one on the left and one on the right. And now with these, what I can do is actually two things. First, we can also select loop cut here to have half of the back selected. This is to select a thinner piece of wood to create the backrest. If you want to have a thicker backrest, you don't have to do the loop cut. Depends on how you want the design to be. Anyway, now we have selected the opposite sides of the faces, and I can focus by using view and frame selected to just give a better view on the back. Selecting the two of them, there is one function that is very useful and convenient, which is right-click on your mouse, bridge faces, and we click on it and see the magic happened. We have the gap filled out by creating 4 extra faces as the backrest of the chair. Of course, then you can select the other faces just to grab it around, or maybe here I can just push it a bit to the back to create some design for the chair. However you like this to be, you can do the changes now. And you can also select everything and create the bevel if you want. And you can also add segment to it just to have it look more or less similar to this little guy here. Now that we have a chair and an end table on the scene, we can try to color it. But before that, let's find the property panel for the coloring, for the texturing. We will have to find something like this, a pink ball usually at the end of the list. And it only appears when you are selecting a mesh or when you just selected a mesh. It will appear like this. But if you are selecting something like the camera or the light bulb, then you will find no pink ball on the list. Instead, you will have a green bulb or a green camera. When you select a mesh and when you zoom in and check this one, you will find an empty panel. The box on the top, together with these 3 buttons on the right-hand side, show you what kind of materials are you using on this specific mesh you have selected. And definitely, we don't have any material applied to the mesh, and that's why there is nothing. And then below it, we have black and white button, the same shape as the property panel, but it has no shade on it. This show you what material you have created or you have been using in this profile, in this project. For now, we have nothing, and that's why you can only see one material here by default. Or maybe you will see nothing. So it depends on whether you created the project, it should appear like this, or you're receiving project from another person and maybe the person has deleted all the materials. Here you can see that the name of the material is called material. You can also rename it. And I do recommend you renaming it because in a big scene, we usually have a lot of different materials and you don't want to have this number like material 001, material 002 because you want to have some hints to yourself and you can reuse them in the future. The 0 in front is telling you how many meshes or how many places are you using this material. And for now, we have nothing. We have 0 material. To create one material, we have to create new. When we press new, Here you can see the material.001. That's basically the name of your material. I will want to create a brown color shade. I will rename it brown. And if you open this preview panel, you will see a ball here. And this ball is showing you what kind of material you are making. And before you apply to this one, or you can check the change of color. For example, if I change it to pink, you can see it here. And it is not showing on the viewport. You can do all the changes basically here first, and then you can check how it looks in the future. Or you can also check this shading ball. Well, we have not talked about this before, but I want to draw your attention to these 4 buttons. We are already familiar with the X-ray. For us to select certain vertex or certain edges or certain faces, next to it we have 4 balls. And the first one is called wireframe. And when we check wireframe, we will get rid of all the gray shading on the meshes. And we will see instead a lot of lines. And these are showing all the edges you have created in the scene. By default, the wireframe mode will have the X-ray on also. You can also uncheck this. When you uncheck this, you will see many fewer lines on the shade. You're not seeing through. Maybe you are missing some part. So usually we will use wireframe with the X-ray on. And secondly, we have the solid preview. The solid preview is when we did the modeling, and it is the gray color with no affection, no effect from the light, no effect from the color. And the third one is the material preview. And as you can see, it is to display the shade object in 3D view. And it's not going to take a lot of RAM, a lot of memory from your computer, but you can see the color. When we check this button, we don't see any shadow. You can see barely some shadow here, but it's not super realistic. However, you can see the pink color on the chair, right? And the fourth one is the render preview. And when we check this one, you can see that the shadow and the lighting is a bit more dramatic. And when you move around the light bulb, for example, the shadow will also move along. But we're not going to use this one first, because to talk about the render preview, we have to also talk about the 2 render engine, which is coming afterwards. Let's go back to the third one with the material preview, and we are back here on this pink shade chair. The basic coloring skill in Blender is using the principled BSDF. And the principled BSDF is already allowing you to do many things on the scene. The first one is the base color. When you do base color, you can open by coming here, open the color wheel, and you just have to drag around or select the shade that you want to try it on. For example, I want the green shade. I can just change it to green, all right? And then there is metallic. And usually this numbering is from 0 to 1, except the IOR. IOR is the number for glass, so it has different number system. For the metallic, usually by default is 0. It means that it's completely plastic. It's nothing close to being a metal. But you can also drag along this bar to make it, pushing it to 1. Then you can see the color seems to change, and it looks like a matte shade of green. And you can see here on the ball, it looks even better because this ball is showing you a better reflection of the light. It looks a bit more metallic. It's like an ornament on the Christmas tree. And you can also alter the roughness. And the roughness is 0.5 by default. If you reduce it, it means that it's getting smoother and smoother. And as you can see that the reflection on the ball is getting even more clearer. Until the end, when you reach 0, it looks like a super shiny metal shade. If you push it to 1, it will become matte again. When you go back up to the top of the list, we will see brown here with a green shade. So I'm gonna change it green. I have this shade called green, and maybe you will want to be a little bit more specific, like matte, metal, green, and that is for your future usage. If you want to create more things and then in the future you want to use this shade, you can just go back to this list and check this one. For example, if I'm selecting material for the chair, you will see 0 is gone on the material and the green shade has a 0 in the front. So it is reminding you whether you have used this material or not. If not, you can also choose to get rid of it. When I choose material, the chair is turned back to white color without the green shade anymore. And if I check again green, I am using the green shade now. It is a very easy switch and you don't have to keep creating the same color by using add, because a lot of our students, they have made the same mistake in the beginning of the journey. They keep adding and adding as if they have never used this color before. And then in the end, you will have like 10 shades of the same color. And this is going to take much of the size of the file. Second of all, is that it will become more and more difficult to choose the correct shade that you want. Or maybe you will be confused by yourself. You will think that this shade is actually different from the other, but actually they are not. And it is also easy if you keep it only one shade and if you apply to all the things that is actually of the same material realistically, because in the future you just want to make it a little bit more matte or make it a little bit more shiny. You just have to change one and it applies to everything that you use the same material of. Let's move on to the end table. The end table, I want to do something different because I want to create the tabletop with another color over the other parts of the table. I'm not going to just go here and change it to color green because this is very easy. And this, you can create the color shade, of course, and then immediately you apply the color to the whole mesh. This is the coloring on the object mode, but I'm going to show you how we can do it with the edit mode. Let me get rid of this color first. And go to the edit mode of this end table. Now, I can use the white material to make it really brown now. I'm changing this to a brown color. This is the brick color, so I'm going to turn this down a bit. It will become brownish. Brown, definitely. And it's in the middle, it's not too shiny or too matte. It's not metallic. If I'm going to have the front view by pressing 1 here, I can see that the table is seamlessly created, and I want to just get the top part as brown and the other parts with another color. What I'm doing is to turn on the X-ray. Now when I turn on the X-ray, I can see through the mesh. Maybe it's not very obvious here because we have the color shading here, but I'm seeing through the model if you can see here. Two options. One is to select the top, or the second one is to select the legs. What I can do is to create by pressing Add button here. And to create a new material, this is to create a new slot for the material. So new, I can change it to metal black and just drag this bar down to black color. We have more or less like a rubber shade in black. Then I want to push the metallic number up and reduce a bit the roughness. This is a bit more like a shiny black. Maybe you can't find it very metallic, but it's actually metallic because of the metallic number here. Or If you want to just see a bit better, you can create a silver shade. How do we achieve that? Is to have a high metallic number, low roughness, and push it to the white color. This is the silver shade. I have this silver shade. It's not very shiny. You can push it even shinier or not. We have this shade and we can select, for example, these faces. When we select all of these faces, because they are still brown and I want to change it to silver shade, I do have to select assign. I have to assign these specific material to the faces I have selected. I'm assigning this, and as you can see, I have changed already the legs to a silver shade with the brown color on top. And this is how we can separate the faces to different material. Now, you have learned how to create simple color shades for the meshes you have created, both in object mode and edit mode. Today's assignment is for you to create many more small items for the tabletop and try to color them. Tomorrow, we will come back to talk about lighting for the realistic scene rendering. See you tomorrow. Bye!